Okay, good morning, everyone. Having a mentor when you're starting out a new small business is something that can be key to your success. It can be someone to bounce ideas off, someone to learn from, and someone that can provide you with much needed support at the end of a busy day or at the start of a hectic week. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about, how to find and work with a mentor. Welcome along to today's Tide Masterclass.
Rise, entrepreneur. Take that first step towards freedom. So long to the old routine. Welcome to your new venture. There's an industry that needs disrupting. Ideas you should be challenging. It takes courage to do what you love. We'll help you begin your journey. As a business like you, dedicated to you, we can take on tomorrow together with a business account you could open today. Entrepreneurs across the UK. Start your business with Tide.
Morning, everyone. My name is Kuhn Hawker, and I'm the event manager here at Tide, and it's great to have you along for today's session. Whether you're watching us live today or on YouTube or on our on-demand service, it's great to have you, so thank you for taking the time. Quick tour of Zoom, just in case you haven't used it before. I can't imagine there's many people that haven't, but just in case, we'll be using the chat room, as many of you have already, to say good morning. If you have any comments, you'd just like to say hello, please feel free to use the chat room for that. It's beyond your toolbar, wherever you put your toolbar on your screen. We'll also be using the Q&A button as well. So if you have any questions for myself or Emma, our panelist, as we go through, dump those into the Q&A button and the box there, and we'll get to those in the last 15 or 20 minutes of today's session. For those of you who are new to Tide and what we do, I wanted to give you a quick overview of our services. So we are currently the fastest growing online business current account provider in the UK, and we've just passed our 300,000 member mark, which is something we're hugely happy and proud about. And our aim is to provide our members with a service that saves them both time and money when it comes to their business banking. We're brilliant for SMEs and for startups and for freelancers, and there are no credit checks or monthly or annual fees when it comes to the account, so you can even try us out alongside your current business account provider to see how we can save you both time and money. The sign-up process itself is really simple. It takes between 5 and 10 minutes, and you'll then receive your sort code and your account number, so you can start banking straight away with your beautiful Tide card coming in the post a few days later. The app itself, really simple to use. Really simple to use and set up. There are brilliant, loads of brilliant in-app products as well to make your banking life a lot easier. A couple that I find really useful: the auto categorization tool, so you can see exactly where your money went and when it went there. And you're also able to send fully customizable invoices through the app as well. So you can use your company logo, you can fully edit the email that goes along with that invoice too, and it all goes through the app, so it's really easy to use. I will talk to you a little bit later on about how to stay up to date with what we're doing here at Tide, and how we're going to make it even easier for you to become a member. But now we're going to get on with today's masterclass, and I'm really pleased to have Emma Sayle along, and she's going to introduce herself this morning. Good morning, Emma. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Morning, everyone. I am, just like I have been the whole year, sat on a bed hiding upstairs from two dogs and 3 kids and a husband and everything else going on in my life. So it's my little sacred space here. I'm good. So I founded a business called Killing Kittens 15 years ago, which was all around women's sexuality and providing a safe space for women to feel in control and not judged, and explore. And it was very much sort of from an anger inside me that the world was unbalanced in that area, and from then have sort of expanded, and it's become a tech business and spun off into different sub businesses within it, and then launched another business called Sister 2 years ago, which is all about mentoring and professional women, and helping out, and that sort of everyone is there to help. Everyone can offer something. It's not that sort of black and white mentor mentee setup. I can learn a lot from people, they can learn a lot from me, and so Sister was very much sort of set up to create this sort of world where everyone's helping everyone on a professional level. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what sort of spent 20 years launching different things with very much women at the core, but all about basically working together and actually giving that women the confidence to go out and work in a world alongside men all together. So yeah,
perfect. That's a great introduction, and that's why you're here today, so we can talk about mentors and how to get them, how to use them, and what the best ways to approach mentors and stuff like that. So it'd be, I think, a good starting point maybe would be to understand what maybe would have helped you, and what you'd wish you'd had at your disposal at the start of your journey all those years ago?
I kind of to me it's slightly different in that I launched a business when I was 24, and it was a business very much, well, it was in the adult industry for a start. It was in a very male industry, where everything was run by men, and so it was sort of the way you operated, and the kind of people often say, did I have a mentor? I didn't have a mentor. I had loads of mentors, in that it was old school hustling. We didn't have the social media side or that digital communities. It was, you were out, I was out pretty much 5 nights a week and blagging myself into networking groups I really was not qualified to be in, and way too young, and from every industry possible. And I very much was this sort of energy sucker, in that I just liked people and listening to people and listening to their stories and listening and feeling their energy, and that the successful energy in people who are running their own businesses and had that drive just sort of is contagious. So I'm quite a big believer in that. Actually, you can get a lot just by talking to people, and you just get their energy. And if they're a good, I say, sort of drains and radiators, I call them. So there are some people you go into a room or start talking to, and you feel like they're draining all your energy. So you walk out like you might as well just throw yourself off a bridge because the world is ending. And then you have the radiators, where they radiate energy, and that you leave them even after 5 minutes of talking to them, where you feel like you can go out and rule the world and do anything you want in life. So to me, that's always been a big part of mentoring, as in finding the right people around me who give me that energy, that I can go out and do it, rather than well, you can't do it.
That's interesting. I guess it's you have to have that as a person yourself too, to be able to just speak to people. And some people can be quite shy, and it's a bit of a tricky one. So how do you what's the best way people can get over that kind of approach? Because I think often people undervalue themselves a little bit.
I think what is a lot easier now, because the digital world has completely opened up. You don't have to be in the same room as people. You don't even have to speak like this. You can be, there are so many online communities and online worlds where you can sort of hide behind a keyboard, even LinkedIn, sort of messaging people and asking for help. You don't have to do it in person now. So it's very much, it's sort of the last year of being locked down, I think actually has been an introvert's dream a lot of the time, and an extrovert like me crawling walls and going, this is so out of my comfort zone, I need real humans in my face to be able to touch. And so I think now actually you don't need that. You can just join a community. You can sit on the sofa. You still don't have to speak to anyone. You just have to be prepared to put yourself out there. And that, that's sort of, whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, whether you find it comfortable being in social spaces or not, if you want to learn, you've got to take that step forward to be vulnerable and put yourself out there.
It's really important. And like you said, there's loads of new things happening all the time. You must be aware of Clubhouse that's coming over from the States at the moment. I don't know if you're aware of this new
no, I'm not. Do you know what? I'm not on it because I've got real FOMO, because I've got an Android phone and it's only every day I'm getting invites to join. I'm like, oh.
It's really interesting for those out there who don't know. It's a social media thing, but you join, people just start rooms and you can join these rooms, and it's a live conversation piece, non-video. It's just people having conversations about thousands and hundreds of thousands of different subjects. There's some really interesting people on there, from Kanye West through to Elon Musk, through to me, who's not very interesting at all, through to lots of other people. But it's a really interesting tool. It's invite only at the moment, which seems a bit rubbish, but I think they're obviously just looking to expand it.
Although they say that, but I think it's if anyone wants an invite, let me know, because everyone I know seems to have invites.
So
it's one of those, like, the most unkept secret.
It's good. It's very interesting. Really,
So
going back to the mentor bit, it's what do you think makes a good mentor? What should people be looking out for? I mean, I guess it's different in every different business that you're in, but there must be some key points which people should be looking for.
A good mentor well, you need to be a good listener. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people think that, well, you think they know everything. And a lot of people, you think, even I'm always disappointed with some people who I've admired from afar, and then I start talking to them and they just sort of talk at me that they are right and they know everything. And so to be a good, be a good listener. There needs to be like empathy and awareness, because people don't operate the same way. And already we've had that, we've mentioned introverts and extroverts, and the way I am is very different to the way a lot of other people are, especially if you're you're not quite sure and you're nervous and you're not much self-confidence. I know I have to be gentle and less sort of, so it's kind of that a good mentor knows their mentee and whether they need a bitch slap to get on with it, or whether they need a sort of bit of cotton wool. It's that, so that kind of empathy and awareness is crucial. A good mentor as well will know the difference between being a rescuer and a coach. So that's the big difference in that you can't, I try and help people, but I have boundaries, and I can't, people have to do the work. I'm not going to be able to fix it all. I can't rescue it. And that's taken me, a few years to kind of get my head around. I think 20s and 30s, I was more of a rescuer, just wanting to help everyone and getting it sucked out of me in the process. Now I'm very much more sort of, well, no, these are my boundaries, and I will help and I will give you tools, but you're going to have to do the work. On that front, I think there's also a bit of structure. It's easy to sort of sit there and, especially as women, and I know there are a lot of guys in this call, so it's very similar, but I just know women talk a lot more, and it's easy to suddenly go into 2 hours of chat with not much advice given. So a good mentor, there'll be some structure and just simple, rather than try and throw 20 things at someone. I'll just maybe give a couple of tips or a couple of ideas that they can go away and think about and get on with, rather than information overload. So I would say those are the main things for being a mentor.
Do you think it's better to have somebody that you haven't known until you started looking for a mentor, or is it better to like a family friend or something like that, or is it much more of a, I guess I think,
to be honest, on who it is, I would say someone you don't know, because one thing I have learned along the way is actually your toughest critics are often the people around you and closest to you, and what I have learned on that front is that often it doesn't come from a good place. It comes from a threatened place in them, that you are changing, you are growing, and you're threatening them because they're used to you being in a certain place. That actually, if you start growing and becoming a bigger person or being more successful, then you threaten them a bit, and they come out and will put you down and say you can't do it, and and they'll be the critic. So to me, if it's someone even a family friend, you don't know what bias is in them from knowing you, that is their kind of safety sort of.
That makes sense. And I guess you'd be more, it's like being, I don't know, if you're using a counselor or anything like that, you can be much more open with somebody that doesn't know you, is not going to
exactly, that's the thing. I don't think you'd see a therapist who was a family friend, to be honest.
That's never a good idea. And then on the flip side of that, I guess, is what makes a good mentee? What do you have to have in place to make sure you're getting the best out of the mentor and yourself as well? What do you
again, I think on that front as well, to be a good listener. I think if you're not prepared to listen, then you're never going to learn. That's something I learned as I got older. I was awful at listening in my 20s. And asking questions. You've got to. And there's no such thing as a silly question. So there's absolutely no point sitting there not asking questions, and to go ready with a whole load of questions into a session. So be prepared. Know what it is you want to get out of it. It's all very well saying, I think I need a mentor, but what do you want to get out of having a mentor? What do you want to achieve? So, but also at the same time, I've had a few, they've just got a bit arsy because they expect, like a lot of, the culture we live in, we live in a very sort of mollycoddled cotton wool culture, and a lot of people expect things to fall out the sky and land on their heads, like instant fame, instant money, instant, pharmaceutical stuff, you know what I mean? It's like literally without any personal responsibility. And I think that to have personal responsibility of this is down to you to learn and to get something out of it. A mentor is not there to wave a magic wand and fix your professional life. It will give you a business on a plate. So a good mentee will know that and be prepared to do the work and be prepared to change. That's the thing. I think that sort of if you're stuck in your ways and you think you know everything, then you're never gonna learn anything.
That's true. And what if you're a mentee going to a mentor, what kind of time should you expect from them? Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be saying, I want to speak to you for 2 hours every day, but what are the kind of the time frames?
Do you know what? There's different mentors operate in different ways. Often when I've had some, it'll be kind of an hour a month, an hour and a half sort of thing, in a kind of, because then you've got time, the mentees have got time to go out and do something and change or get something set up. And so they can come back. I think, once a week is sort of a week, actually, in the grand scheme of work, is not a long time for things to happen. And so to me, an hour once a month, if it goes on a bit into an hour and a half, then 2 hours, then so be it. But also at the same time, I think you have that one session, but then I'm there, I have a couple that just sort of WhatsApp me occasionally. If they have a specific question, then you can have that. I think it's not, you can't do it every day. I mean, because most mentors I've got a lot going on. I've only got so many hours in a day, which actually I'm trying to fit 50 hours into a 24-hour day as it is. So you can't, that's another thing, you can't expect the mentors just to be there at your beck and call and get arsy if they won't be on the phone every day. I don't even speak to my business partner every day because we don't have time to do that. So
And then in terms of how we'll get on to sort of how you choose a mentor in a second, but because I've never been a mentor or had a mentor, but is there like a written, not a contract, but how do you sort of go, oh, will you be my mentor, please? And then there's a sort of just an agreement, or how does it work?
There isn't, most people I know don't, there's not an agreement. I think sometimes if you go to actually, really sort of quite corporate mentoring setups, then who will pay you up, and often like that, often there might be a bit of, there might be money involved on that front. We, for example, at Sister, there's no contracts, there's no signing thing. We will literally just pair people. Someone will come and ask for help in a certain area, and then we'll pair them up with someone, and then you just have to, you have to get a feel for them, because actually you might not get on. They might not be right. They've got to fit. It's like any relationship, is you can't just sort of, it's like dating. So you can't go on an online dating site and just because you match on an online dating site necessarily get on or be right. And it's the same with mentoring. It's like someone might look good on paper in what they've done and achieved business wise, but personality wise they just might not fit at all, and vice versa. So you've got to fit on that front, and not take it personally when it goes, I don't, when either side says this, I don't think this is the right fit. I've done that before and said, I don't think I'm the right person for you, and then suggested someone else.
I think that's the main thing, is like the honesty in that is really important, because otherwise you're just wasting each other's time. And I think you probably quickly know, like if you say, if you're dating someone you don't get on, you quickly know, right? And it's probably the same with mentoring. You have to have that connection.
Yeah, exactly. You just can't lead them on.
No, exactly. And I think you mentioned earlier that it's important to sort of establish a structure, isn't it, as well, in those hour every month or whatever it is, so you don't just go in and say, okay, what are we talking about? And make sure there's a structure to the meeting, or to the, there's an agenda or stuff like that, to make sure you're getting the best out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Structure is important. And if a mentee comes in going, right, what I want to, actually, confidence is a big aspect of it, and self-belief is something that I want to go away to back myself a bit more. There's, that's one thing. The understand, being able to work social media, basic social media skills is another thing. As someone wanted to learn more about SEO at Sister, and so we put them in touch with an SEO expert. So that's the thing, there's so much. I mean, it's the entire professional spectrum. So whatever it is you want to get out of it, that's, you've just you've got to put the work in and a good mentor will give you things, will give you pointers and tips and say, right, go away and try and do this, or go away and read this book or read this blog, or
Okay, that's really interesting. And I think we touched on it a little bit before, but are there any kind of top tips that when you're choosing a mentor you should try and stick to? And again, it's obviously a very personal thing, but are there anything really specific, which maybe the top 3 which you can think of?
Say that again, sorry.
Are there any the top 3 which you can maybe think of in terms of when it comes to choosing a mentor, which you just have to rigidly stick to, or is it more of a personal?
I think to be honest, it's I don't really like, for a start, I don't particularly like the words mentor or mentee. I think they're quite rigid. And if I reach out to someone for help, I'll just be like, have you got 5 minutes for a chat? I'd love to pick your brain. And I still do that with people. If we need stuff on the tech side or the digital side, I know I'll have heard of someone, I might message them on LinkedIn and say, have you got 20 minutes? Have a quick so that I can pick your brain is a good one, because you're not pressurizing the other person on that. And actually someone's just said that.
Said exactly the same thing in the chat room.
Someone's
We're
just
not
like,
stealing
can
your
I buy
ideas,
you a coffee and ask you a few questions? Exactly. Because then you're not putting, because if someone, there is that pressure. If someone messages and says, will you be my mentor? That's like basically asking someone, to marry you before you've even been on a first date. And that's a lot of pressure. Whereas that pick your brain, because then you might have that first chat or the first just quick coffee, you get to know each other, and actually both sides will know if the other one wants wants to. So I'd say that's probably my number one pick. It's just go easy like that, and have no shame in asking, especially at the moment, with everyone sat at home. All these these big mentors and business people, successful business people and directors of businesses and stuff are all sat at home crawling walls. They're not jumping on aeroplanes and flying all over the world, or traveling all over the place, or sitting in an office having massive meetings. They have more time. I know I have more time, way more time, and I want human contact. So at the moment, I'm like, if someone messages me going, have you got 20 minutes? I'm like, yes, I do. So at the moment, I say to you, would literally have no shame right now. And if someone interests you, or you see someone on LinkedIn, think, oh, they've got an interesting background, or they found, like, just message them. What's the worst thing that can happen? They'll either not reply, or they'll say, sorry, I don't have time. But exactly. That's the thing. You don't know until you've got to put yourself out there. I think it's one of my main tips.
Yeah, but do you have too many mentors as well? Like, can you sort of?
Yeah, I think you can, and that's the thing. Like when I said about my experience, they weren't there. They weren't the women in business, especially not the industry I was in. It wasn't there, and there still isn't really now. There's different women in sort of in different tech positions doing different things that I will pick their brains, but again, it's sort of a different industry, and but it's that where I do learn is from being part of lots of different groups. I am part of lots of different groups and business groups and networking groups, and I will listen. So that's the thing. So that's where and that's the other side of learning and having kind of more of a group mentor in that, and kind of you don't need hundreds of individual ones. You just need to listen within business groups.
Yeah, that's interesting. So going back a bit, just to say, you want to talk a bit more about Sister, and how you went from the sort of concept of that to the reality of it, just as sort of a bit more background about you and the Sister part of your life. It'd be really interesting to know about that too.
Yeah, so that, to be honest, I started a group called the Sisterhood 15 years ago, and that was it was a big group of girls, and we did loads of we still do loads of, when we're allowed, loads of crazy sports events around the world, different races in aid of different women and children's charities. And started that. And the thing I loved and still love about it is the community side of it. It's like over 100 women in London, and there's a WhatsApp group which has been great in the last year for support. So I had that, the sisterhood side of things. Zero in KK had this, he's had this sort of mentoring platform, tech platform that was kind of just sort of sat there and hadn't been used. And he was so busy with what we're doing on the other side in the KK group. And we sort of spoke and said, well, if you combine the sort of the sisterhood mentality in the community with the tech, then actually we've got something quite cool. And on that as well, knowing that tech allows you to reach everyone in the world. And the hard thing with, and we found it with KK, it started offline and sort of grew, the online side grew, and when you add tech into the mix, that digital world, you can then reach everyone in the world. So to us to be able to reach all the women in the world and help, it kind of, that tech bit being added onto the sisterhood made sense. And also one thing that's always been, I grew up in the Middle East, we moved every 2 years, and I just like humans. I just see humans as humans. I've never seen, you know, any race or culture or ethnicity. It's just sort of been surrounded by loads of different people from all over the world since I was a baby, and moving the whole time. And that's always been how I operate and create any community, is sort of, I don't want it just to be women in finance, or women in finance, or women in advertising. It was sort of, or mentees and mentors. To me, it was sort of a much grey, any community I create is a real grey area of everyone can learn everything from everyone. And that's what we wanted at the heart of Sister, because especially with women, you have a really squiggly careers, you know, they literally squiggle all over the place, and you have ones, you know, who start in the city and then they have a baby and then they decide they want to launch their own, you know, pajama brand, or, you know, or become a life coach. It's sort of, but then they want to, it goes all over. So there's no sort of set path. And especially now, and men as well now, there's much more squiggly, and you don't stick in something for 30 years a lot of the time. So launching Sister was kind of actually the big belief that everyone can help everyone, so that I can learn stuff of, you know, some 21-year-old who's a whiz on TikTok, for example, could teach me a lot. Not that I want to be on TikTok. So that's what we wanted with Sister, in that we just wanted a space where there was no such thing as a silly question. You can ask anything you want to ask, completely unjudged, any industry, any area, any age. So yeah, that's what we've moved the sort of rigidity in the walls of a lot of traditional mentoring setups or networking setups, and a lot of groups. Kind of, we don't really see walls.
That's good. And I guess, I mean, you've started to answer it there, but the main differences between Sister and other mentoring programs, I mean, you said there are no walls. Are there any other things which you've put in place, or you've been planning to put in place, which may, you know, come into fruition soon, which would be?
Another, with our setup, one thing, like I said, it's sort of, there's not one person, you know, there's not one person for one person. We do a lot, like we do a lot of like panel discussions. They're all free, where we get some of the big mentors on a panel, and so like this afternoon we have one, visibility hacks, and we've got the PR agency boss, social media boss, and a big she's sort of a big drum digital disruptor, and so they'll give advice. I'll host that panel and be about an hour and a half, and they'll come with loads of tips and tricks and hacks. So that's kind of, to us, and the way we operate, we do a lot of them. Almost once a week we'll do something like that. So there is an element of, it's kind of free mentoring, because you were giving something where you can learn a lot without having to speak individually to those 3 women as mentors. So that's the other thing, is I'm fully aware of the time mentors have. So rather than like the boss of the PR agency, with, you know, people will get more out of her, and she knows it, and if she gives up 2 hours of her time once a month, but to do more of a group type thing like this, and people can ask questions, then rather than, you get more out of that, and we can kind of help loads of people, rather than her speaking to one direct. So that's the other thing with Sister, we kind of mix it up a bit and kind of ask people what they want to learn, because actually what one person wants to learn, there's probably about 300 other people that want to learn the same thing. So yeah.
That's cool. It sounds really interesting. And what have the main lessons be that you've found from sort of setting up and starting that as a business owner, or as a, you know, as an SME and all those kind of things, but as well as a mentor and a mentee? What are the main sort of lessons you've learned?
The main lessons I've learned, I think, that self-awareness, that not knowing everything was a big thing, and listening, being prepared to listen, and that I'm not good at everything, and part of that self-awareness. But I think part of that not being good at everything, what the other one thing I've learned with that, it's not a case of being good at it, it's a case of not wanting to do it. So I know I will say, oh, I don't like the tech kind of side of it, and I'm not good at details, and or, you know, the accounts side of it. It's not a case of not being good at it. I was a complete math geek at school. I loved Excel spreadsheets, but I don't want to do it. So that's the thing. So one thing, you know, I have learned is to understand what you don't want to do, and what you do want to do. And when it comes to the business, is look for people to do what you don't want to do. And there's a difference between a lazy ass and going, I'm just going to sit on the sofa and I don't want to do any work, and what I've just been saying about, well, I don't want to do the accounts. So it's, you know, to get a good finance person, which that's a good thing I learned, that I should have got one of them years ago, because I think a lot of money went down the pan in the first 5 years of just not having a good accountant attached to it. So that and be more vulnerable and ask for help. I've got a lot better, especially in the last 6 years of having 3 kids in 6 years. I don't have the time to do it all, so you kind of have to take a step back and ask for help, and say what you're struggling with, and once I've done that a few times, actually it's really easy. You know, once you've done it once, then I don't stop asking. So yeah, it's like, the tap's been turned on. So those would be those are myself, and that, you know, self-awareness, listening, and self-care is another. It might sound, you know, cheesy and stuff, but I don't think people look after themselves. When they're launching businesses, and it's all external, and you're going 1,000 miles per hour, and you're working 24/7. And one thing I have learned to do is be selfish. And I always say that to people. You know, they say, what's your biggest bit of advice in business? I'm like, or life, I'm like, be selfish. And people go, oh my God, you're an arsehole. And it's like, no, you can't, if you're not looking after yourself and realizing what makes you tick and what you love and what you want to, you know, what makes you happy, then how do you expect to make everyone else happy around you? And that's your business relationships to your personal relationships. So
I think mental health is really important across the board, isn't it? We've done a couple of masterclasses on mental health for small business starters and some business owners, because especially what we're going through at the moment, it's even more important when you're not seeing people. If you're a business owner on your own and you used to maybe having a shop or doing something where you're seeing people every day, it's really tough. So if that starts faltering, then it quickly unravels, doesn't it? And it becomes a really big issue. So being selfish and self-aware, really, really important. And one of the final questions just is to get an idea of what you see people wanting mentoring in the most, if that makes sense. What are the main things that people are looking to get help with?
Well, when we did a massive survey when it came to Sister, we were quite surprised, because it wasn't, we thought, you know, before it's professional, maybe everyone would want help on accounts, and but actually most people wanted inspiration. The main thing that came back was they wanted to be inspired, because I think if you're inspired, you will go out and do it. You don't, you know what I mean? You don't need the skill set to be able to do the accounts, but you know, if you're inspired, you will make it happen. If you have the right energy and the drive, it just happens. So we was quite surprised, because that inspiration was the top thing, the top reason for wanting mentors, was that, and confidence was another one. So actually where you might think it's actual, you know, certain skill sets, certain industries that what people want, it's a lot of actually that what isn't necessarily a professional
Yeah.
thing, that it's more of a personal tool, is that
Yes.
confidence, confidence, inspiration, and but on a business front, a lot of people, they don't know where to start. And I think that's, they've got an idea, how do they make an idea come to life? So that's where a lot of people, if I get messages from people, it's, they'll say they've had this idea to launch something, but they don't know where to, they don't know how to start, or on that front. So it's more so on that. I think it comes down to helping them just structure and give them a few things to do every month on that front.
Okay, so like it's a bit more like a shoulder rather than a teacher and telling you exactly what to do. It's that support, isn't it? And whether it's, like I say, the
Exactly.
topic, whether it's after a horrible day or at the beginning of what looks like a horrible week, somebody just to go and have a bit of a cry to, maybe, as well as some really practical
Exactly.
advice. Cool, that's been really, really helpful, Emma. And just before, we're going to do a Q&A session as well, so please remember to get those questions in. Before we do, just use that Q&A button, which is somewhere on your screen, type the questions in there. Before we do, I just want to tell you a bit more about Tide and what we do, and if you're new to us, remember to head over to our website and have a look. If that's too much of an effort, we're gonna there's a link in the chat room in a second, which you can click on and give you a bit more information. And the next few days, you'll also receive an email from me with a link to rewatch today's session. And if you're not one of our members already, then a link in that email will also be there to help you become a Tide member really quickly. All you'll need to do is just click the link, sign up, get the Tide app on your phone, and start business banking with us as soon as you can. For all the links to previous masterclasses, information about upcoming events, and there's links to our blog site, which will be in the chat room in a moment as well. Links to all of our social channels, as well as our YouTube channel. Go in there, have a look around. There are some really good other masterclasses there for you to look at. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't worry, all the links that we're discussing are in the description below, and also remember to hit the subscribe button as well. During the Q&A, I'll also be running a quick quality poll, so if you have a couple of seconds, do feel free to give us some feedback. We're always up for that. So do get those questions in. I'm just looking to see if we've had any come in at the moment. We've asked for the Sister Community website, and our other Emma from Sister has put that in, so that's fantastic. Susanna Welsh has asked, what is the name of the mentoring platforms you mentioned? Did you mention some mentoring platforms, Emma? Sorry, I didn't.
I said I mentioned groups, as in
okay, yes.
There are, there's more networking groups, and in that it kind of, I think, I tell you what, like Facebook has a lot of groups on there. There's like a women's a lot of them, I'm sorry, I apologize to the guys on this chat, because I just know there's a lot of, like, the women's ones. There's like a women's founders group that has about 7,000 members in there. So if you can search, Facebook's a good place to search for, if you just put business groups. Okay. If you just put a business group, then you'll get thousands up that you can see, and you'll just get a feel for them. I've done that, and I've just put in, women in tech, and you'll get loads stuff. And I joined a load last week just out of interest for Sister and stuff, and getting the feel for things. And the same with LinkedIn. They have their similar groups, and often, actually, I would say, from experience, like LinkedIn and the Facebook groups, joining groups are much more helpful, actually, than specific websites. So like the websites that you might put in, if you go on Google and search for mentoring setups in London, you might get a whole load, but I find you then have to go through quite a complicated process a lot of the time, and asking for a mentor, and they might not, sometimes they want money from you, and it's sort of, personally, I think you could learn a lot more and find interesting mentors by joining different LinkedIn and Facebook groups, because then you can see who's chatting, you can see who's posting, and someone might stand out, and then you can message them direct and say, have you got 20 minutes to spare? So I'm personally more for that more informal kind of style and way of getting mentors and interacting and learning. I know some people like more rigid style, but to me, that's how I've learned, because you just get a lot more voices.
That's interesting. Have you got any a specific success story that you could share with us, from either you being a mentor or receiving some mentorship?
One I'm really proud of, and yeah, they would say if they're on it. But actually, do you know what, this goes, you know, we are so shit at, excuse my French, of high-fiving ourselves.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know if people know, there's a setup called Hanks, who are, it's basically a condom brand, but it's founded by two girls, founded it, and it's flying, and it's in Sainsbury's and Tesco's, and it's now sort of wellness, and they've got loads of different products now across Boots, and they weirdly, yeah, stalked me at a few events and never actually, they couldn't find me, and then I was hosted a dinner talk thing, must have been about 6 years ago, and they, which you had, you know, it kind of had, only had 30 people in it, and they bought tickets and got there like an hour early and sat opposite me and we got chatting, and yeah, they've kind of, I've been sort of their sounding board, from everything, because obviously they're an adult industry as well, so everything from handling the media and the backlash and the abuse, and speaking to your family about working in that industry, so they, yeah, they're two, because they're just lovely girls, and we fitted when we met, and they wanted to learn and listen, and they still do.
Yeah.
So actually now we work with them quite a lot on a business level. So yeah,
And
they're
so
probably,
they it's possible then to have a mentor for a company rather than individuals. They have two people coming to you for advice. Does that work
yeah,
well?
so
Do they do it together,
they
or?
wanted help, and yeah, asked if I would help them out and be a sounding board if they had any questions,
Yeah.
and had the odd coffee. And sometimes I wouldn't hear from them for 5 months, and then suddenly they might be launching something, and the Daily Mail might be having a field day, and they just needed sort of help on taking the crap
Yeah.
that they got from that on a personal level. So,
Yeah.
and then I'd speak to them a few times in a week. So it yeah, it's sort of on that level,
Excellent.
and intros into a few people who might help them out.
Yeah. Can you? Is it seen as a decent thing to do, or a normal thing to do, to help ask for, you know, links into different
It is,
industries, or is
yeah,
it
and
just
you,
an advice
yeah,
thing?
people do ask, but I think, as people, if someone's taking the piss a bit,
Yeah.
or and like, I know, like, I'm more than happy to I'm very kind of, right, meet these people, or even if they're competitors or whatever, I'm like, I will help them out.
Yeah.
But if someone's taking, in the same way, when you in your group of friends, when you go out for drinks, there's always one person who never buys a drink, and you know who that person is, or around, you know who they are, you kind of know,
Yeah.
if someone is messing around a bit and just take. So in general, people, and also, you don't go straight in when you don't know someone and say, can you introduce me to this person, that person. I
Yeah.
get a few messages like that on LinkedIn, and I just ignore them, because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I don't even, what I mean, there's no hello, how are you?
No, sure.
At least, chat me up a bit before you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think you can, it is totally fine to sort of share, and I think that's part of mentoring, because
Yeah.
you kind of go, well, I don't know that, but these guys are really good, or
Yeah.
have a look at this site, or I'll introduce you by email to people. I've had some people ask me for stuff, and I'm like, look, I'm not a techie, I'm not a big digital person, so even though our business is tech, I can't help you out on that front, but this person is really good. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. A couple of questions coming now. So one from Mila. We touched on this a little bit, but it says, Emma, you mentioned you had a lot of mentors as you were coming up through your success. Would you advise today to have a lot of mentors helping in different areas? So, looking specifically in the
I think, do you know what, I think it's good to have maybe one or two who are good, solid, more sounding boards for that kind of person. You're doing the right thing, you're all right, you're going to get there, kind of that. I think for mentors for learning specific skill sets, and advice, say you needed advice in social media, you need advice on the accounts, you need advice on writing business plans, there isn't going to be one person really that can do all of that.
Yeah.
But where you can, as I mentioned earlier, where you can learn a lot of that is, for example, and we're not the only setup doing it, there's loads of ones, the talks, the webinars, a lot of them are free. You can search Eventbrite for business plan writing.
Yeah.
If you search Eventbrite for business plan or pitch deck, you know, or accounts, you'll be inundated with so many events, and most of them are free a lot of the time.
Or the Tide
And
events
that's
page, for
where,
example.
yeah, and that's where, like, all our events are free. I think your ones are all free. Then that's where you can learn a lot. If it's kind of skills and help in specific areas, knowledge wise, where you need the help, then you don't need a specific person, unless it's something very specific that you're doing. You know what I mean? You're launching a fintech product, and you need that real, you know, techie person who knows that, has that experience. Then maybe get a mentor that is in that world, that will know that space more. But often with mentors, it is that very generic, what, you know, like I said, that sort of inspiration, just someone to give you a kick up the ass every week to make sure you're off the sofa and you're doing something. And just that accountability a lot of the time is a mentor, that you report to someone so that you get it done, you know, you're getting it done.
And then is it useful as a mentor for your mentee to let you know the other mentors that they have or they're speaking to in terms of their
I think
specialities?
you kind of, it's interesting, especially because that's the thing, if it's a mentor as a whole, then often, like, the way I speak to people will be very different to the way others might speak to them, and you don't want to be conflicting and in different ways. It'd be like seeing two therapists. You know, it's sort of no one does that really. So I think, you know, you have the main therapist as the mentor, and then you have different setups where you can learn the different bits. So as a mentor, if you're helping, one of the things that you do is you say, well, maybe you need to go and look, you know, on the business plan side of things, go out and go to, you know, look up, you know, sort of perfect business plans and go to these webinars, or look at this setup, so that you send them in directions. You know, that's the thing. So if you had two of me, I wouldn't know what the other person, we might be, you know, it might get a bit confusing.
Okay, that's a good point. A question from Tom. It says, do you think having a mentor relationship with someone typically takes any future business off the table between the two parties?
No, not at all. And you know, as I said, well, the Hanks example is a classic example. What started as before they launch, and is now we do business with them. And I don't see them as mentees in any way. I see them as partners. You know, I would say Hanks is a business partner of KK. So yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. We haven't had any more questions come in just yet. So I think, unless any come in the next 10 seconds, that's going to be a good place to finish, Emma. So thank you very much for today. It's been a real pleasure having you along. Really insightful, really interesting stuff. I know we've still got a lot of people on the call, so they've stuck around for the event, and they've obviously found it really interesting.
Thanks for not leaving.
So thank you very much for your time. Thanks for everybody that's attended today. I hope you found it interesting. Please remember to keep an eye out for the emails that will be coming after this event with links to become a Tide member and for links to rewatch the event too. And we look forward to seeing you at future Tide events in the next few weeks or so. Once again, Emma, thanks very much, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
No worries. Bye.